Welcome to today's video where we delve into the incredible story of a man who died in a tragic motorcycle accident. As the motorcycle spun out of control, William braced for impact. When he opened his eyes, he found himself to be transparent and floating in the air. But just as he was about to despair, a strange presence with other three creatures appeared before him. They told him they have been protecting him all his life. Discover the incredible journey of William as he unravels the mystery behind his afterlife experience. So sit tight and let's unfold the mysteries of this journey together. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more intriguing stories like this. Without further ado, let's get to the story. On my motorcycle, I had just bumped into a car's left side after having prevented it from flipping over when I noticed the speedometer read 45 miles per hour. I looked ahead after my right elbow damaged the driver's side mirror of the car door and noticed a row of 3 mailboxes that were each supported by very substantial and heavy posts. I later realized the first and third were on 8-inch posts, while the second was on a railroad tie. On Sunday, September 16, 1979, around 1:30 p.m., I was driving south on Arkansas Highway 7. Generally speaking, this is situated south of Russellville, the Arkansas River, and more specifically, south of the quaint community of Dardanelle. I was riding my Kawasaki 400s motorcycle and had just arrived in the small town of Centerton. We were going to a girl's house for a Sunday dinner on this beautiful day with a nearly entirely blue sky, which was just a few more miles away. A less common type of blue sky these days that appears to be darker. I started to make a slight left turn and rounded the curve back toward the south at a speed of 60 miles per hour. Then, as it was beginning to turn into a driveway, I saw a large car stopped in the middle of the road with its front end angled slightly to the left. On the right side of the road, the right side of the car's back still took up a lot of room. When it didn't turn on, as I had anticipated, I noticed the driver's agitated demeanor. An older woman driving started gesturing with her hands as if she didn't know what to do. I instinctively tried to maneuver the bike around the left side, even though I knew that braking would only make me hit the back end more slowly. I typically moved to my left rather than my right. I was able to press my left foot into the gravel by the side of the road because I was wearing boots, which helped provide me with the necessary stability. I took advantage of my position to turn the bike back toward the south while dodging a ditch and losing control. Additionally, the fact that I was participating in powerlifting the time might have been advantageous given my strong physique and increased strength. My plan was to barely avoid the car's left side by skimming along the left side of the road. But it cut me off and I jolted against the side a few times because the front end was angled inward toward the driveway. The mirror on the driver's side of the car door was knocked off by my elbow after I realized I was traveling at 45 miles per hour. I was able to maintain enough composure to believe that I might survive, but when I looked ahead, I saw the unavoidable. 3 mailboxes in a row, each mounted on substantial mounting posts. I quickly and sincerely uttered, "Dear God, please let me stay. I don't want to go now," as I suddenly realized that this might be my last moment. Then came a split second. I could feel myself moving through the mailboxes. However, I already started to feel like myself was being pulled up before I even heard anything hit. Then, as I raised my right arm, I wondered to myself why it was so silky white. Why the hand and forearm had texture but were still transparent. And why the sky was such a deep blue color all around. When I realized that I was higher in the air than before, these sparks started to form while I was still admiring my arm. Not exactly like a typical electrical spark, but similar with each spark having a thicker dimension. Similar to a type of plasma with just enough thickness to distinguish black on one edge or side and silver on another. A spark, then 2, then 3, and finally they started to stream together into a vertical line as they moved down to my left, then up, and finally back to the right, from where I was standing at the time and location, clockwise. The black-silver tones remained while sparks flew as the window formed. The entire time, there was a regular, crisp popping sound, and then a nearly square rectangle started to take shape. Without losing consciousness, while I was looking at this and paying close attention to it, a presence of others started to emerge. There were at least 3 more people around him, giving him a bigger presence. Appeared to be a him. I noticed distinct faces when I looked at the other three. There may have been more very worried looks, but the larger presence grew even larger, and I turned my attention back to him. Only his upper body was visible to me. It appeared as though a bordered table or other object was in front of him, obstructing his view of any other area. Everything that was going on was taking place within the boundaries of the open window. In comparison to what I was seeing, I felt small. His eyes appeared to be on fire as they began to flare. What looked like burning embers of hot coal were surrounded by moving hot flames that were rising. Although I have no real idea what size would have been like in the area I was being drawn into, he appeared to be over 15 feet tall. Although I wasn't completely pulled inside, I was standing at the opening and completely lost sight of the blue sky. He appeared to be covered from his neck all the way down in some sort of white robe, like garment. He had somewhat long, very wavy hair. It seemed to be dripping with some kind of static electricity. Silvery hair, an extremely white face and body, and dark to grayish outlines and features. Although not at all frightening, they have an imposing presence that deserves respect. I briefly turned to look at the others, who were still wearing a serious expression of concern. I didn't take the time to fully observe, so there might have been more than three. They were larger than usual, and their eyes were firmly fixed on me. They had well-defined eyebrows and long, slightly wavy hair. I started to notice that time seemed to be moving more slowly and that there seemed to be a rushing wind sound. I could hear what was happening on the motorcycle as well, but it seemed like it was happening slowly to me. I had a thought that made listening to a semi-solid sausage wrap being bashed against a metal wall sound. I turned around and saw that this big lead presence had everything under control. How? I found myself constantly staring at his because I could never have imagined it. They had started to transform into a plasma-like energy whirlpool. Layers spinning in both eyes gave it a whirlpool appearance. From my vantage point, this appeared to be clockwise. The most intensely focused gaze you've ever seen. The lead presence and others started to fade away. The window shrank, blue sky was noticed, the popping sounds returned, and that boundary of plasma energy started to move counterclockwise with sparks of energy, sparking away as the line went back to where it had originated, followed by a few sparks, and then vanished. When I was guiding the motorcycle through the final mailbox and I felt myself come back down, I realized the bike was about to tip over. Although I hadn't had time to consider all of my options, I took it on faith that I should just leap forward off of it because I knew that, based on my past experiences, doing so would be safe. My hands were out in front of me as I spread my body out in the air at about a 30-degree angle, and my legs were fully extended away from my waist. My natural instinct was to look up and to my right as I was shooting through the air, and when I did, I noticed three of the other people I had earlier seen. One face at a time, each one enclosed like a cloud. They appeared to be focused on me and helped complete the process of keeping me alive and preventing me from being injured as severely as I might have been. I came to a stop on the highway's shoulder, skidded a bit, then ended up rolling around in the grass. My blue jeans had some scratches on the knees, some black marks on the right leg, and grass stains on the left. I didn't experience any bleeding on either leg, and they weren't torn. My knees have very minor scratches, and just below the knee on the medial side of my left leg, there's an odd mark. Prior to that, I had no visible veins on my legs, but ever since, a small section of veins can still be seen. It has never felt different. I was donning a red jersey style t-shirt with white trim, an Arkansas Razorbacks football in the center, and other team-related graphics. After skidding, the left side was green from the grass, and the right half was black with a few tiny holes. The football had lost its white color. I still regret not wearing it or wearing it more often. Although most of the stains have been removed, I still have it. I didn't have any scratches on my face, left arm, or upper body. The back, chest, and shoulders were unaffected at all. My right arm was a different matter. I suffered a significant rip on my elbow from the car's knocked-off mirror, and I also suffered two significant gashes on the medial side of my arms, just below the main part of my forearms. My right hand's back and front sustained scrapes and small gashes, and the top of the forearm had lost some of its skin. There was significant bleeding, and the wounds had been swept with gravel. There were no broken bones or joint injuries, and I could move my arm. I picked up the damaged bike, which caught the group of people off guard because they had assumed I was up and about. They advised me to examine myself and get checked out. They spoke to me while I was fully aware of the experience I had just had and was processing it. I was aware that I had nothing to worry about. When I first sat down in the grass before getting up, what did I think? I didn't tell myself it was a miracle, but I did think it was scientific in my head. I didn't get angry about the motorcycle or the immobile car. The lady had high anxiety and heart issues, according to the highway patrolman, and she froze when she saw my motorcycle approaching in her rearview mirror. Despite the fact that these angels didn't appear to be textbook angels, I knew something significant had happened and thanked God for sending them. The motorcycle was in poor condition and couldn't be started or driven. I eventually sold it as junk after it was almost totaled. I looked over the post boxes. All three of them were thrown off their posts, and it appeared that my right arm, if not also the second, did the first one. The first post, which had a diameter of 8 inches, broke in two, leaving both pieces on the ground. A railroad tie served as the middle post, which was turned over at a 45-degree angle. The third post, which had a diameter of 8 inches like the first, was upended and came out of the ground on its side. These posts were all located to the left of the route I took. I was wearing a helmet, and it was completely scratch-free. Before striking mailboxes, I was face to face with them. My physical body may have also risen a little as my spirit did, in my opinion. My head narrowly avoided the accident because I kept my hands on the front handles, which caused my arm to be hit the hardest. After returning to the bike, I also noticed that my Casio watch was missing. I never felt it pull, scrape, or fly off my left arm. I was told to enter the residence where this incident took place and wash off in the bathtub. The guard found my watch as I was completing this. I picked myself up about 15 feet in front of it. We couldn't figure out how the band came off, but it wasn't broken. I may have jumped off and opened my arms, and it may have popped open. Thoughts of how time seemed to slow down during the experience and then speed back up when I returned to Earth crossed my mind. I kept pondering if that was the reason the watch was taken off. The future. 8 onlookers appeared stunned before they walked away. I simply tried to approach everything in a neutral manner. I was glowing internally and bursting with energy. I didn't really know anyone well enough to be able to explain what had just happened. They persuaded the patrolman to drive me to the hospital in Dardanelle, and he also suggested that I spend the night there to make sure I had no internal wounds. The worst part was when my right arm was dipped into a sizable pan of hydrogen peroxide. They dipped my arm all at once because they didn't know where to start. Prior to that, I had not experienced any pain from the accident. My Arkansas Tech University roommate came up with some items for me after I called him. While I waited for him, another person in the room had their arm attached to a machine, which made me feel foolish because I knew nothing else was wrong. When it stopped functioning, a nurse entered. She became very confused because it should have been on a backup plan to restart. It should not have quit, and it had never quit. She left to find a doctor out of frustration. This experience had been deeply ingrained in my consciousness, causing my mind to undergo a great deal of turmoil. Certainly all of experience. I finally had to tell someone what had happened after my friend brought some items in for me. He had a very different spiritual background from me, and he listened with great interest. He also understood that I was sincere and wouldn't have a justification for fantasizing about it. I couldn't even bend my arm to drink a glass of water because it was completely bandaged from my fingers to my shoulder. The following 2 weeks, I wrote left-handed, only used my left arm to lift weights, and otherwise operated as normally as I could. When the bandages were removed after 2 weeks, the doctor was incredibly pleased with how well it looked. I could resume any activity that wouldn't knock them off after some minor bandages. Wow, what a truly incredible journey it has been exploring these near-death experiences. These stories have given us a glimpse into the beauty and power of the human spirit and have reminded us of the preciousness of life. If you're looking for more life-changing content that will leave you inspired and reflective, then you simply cannot miss the next video in our series. This video will take you even further down the rabbit hole of self-discovery and enlightenment. It is truly a must-watch. So what are you waiting for? Don't miss out on this opportunity to continue your journey of growth and enlightenment. Click this video now